Good afternoon, everyone. It's Sal, Stretford Post. How you all doing? And welcome to another episode of Breaking Dawn. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing... No, not Breaking Dawn, guys. Chatterbox. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing fine. Got carried away myself there. Goodness me. Turning back time. It is Chatterbox. Welcome, guys. I hope you're doing well. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Don't forget to smash a like on the video. Put all your notifications on. All that jazz. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today. Of course, you absolute legends, of course, guys. Now, guys, let's get straight into it. Never a day goes by where we get a little bit of transfer news that is like a kind of an eyebrow raiser or a unibrow raiser, because we all raise our eyebrows at the same time. So we all got a unibrow. Definitely, guys. Manchester United are linked with Joao Felix. We all remember Joao Felix, don't we? When he broke through the scene at Benfica, we were potent with the transfer rumours of surrounding Joao Felix. The next big thing, the next Cristiano Ronaldo, whatever you want to say, but was a very, very sought-after player at that particular time. Since then, it hasn't quite gone to plan. He is a bit of a journeyman. He's been around. He's been around the block, guys. He's been around the block. He's been to a few clubs. He's been to Chelsea. He's been to Barca. He's been to AC Milan. Could he come to Manchester United in the summer, guys? Well. Manchester United feel that Joao Felix is the right profile of player that could fit and complement Manchester United's very thin squad. Now, we all know that Man United need cover in the striking area. We cannot just rely on, of course, Benjamin Sesko. Benjamin Sesko, of course, is brilliant, but we can't rely on Benjamin Sesko alone. Would a move for Joao Felix be a good one? 50 caps of Portugal, 11 goals, guys. What do you make of that? How do you feel about that, guys? It is a bit of a bolt out of the blue. If I can turn back time, was it 2018 goal? They want their transfer rumour back. That's what's happening, guys. Absolutely. Joao Felix, 26 years old. Seems like he's older. Seems like he's been around a very long time, isn't it? Well, he has. 26 years old, guys. And basically linked to Manchester United in 2026. There you go, guys. Straight off the cover, guys, Manchester United feel that Joao Felix is the right profile player for Manchester United. What do you guys make of that? The key here, guys, obviously, I don't want to totally discount Joao Felix. I think Joao Felix is a good player. Did not work out for him at Chelsea, of course, and hasn't worked out for him wherever he's been since he's been at Benfica. Now, obviously, it does get in the realms of the Darwin Núñez sort of transfer from Benfica, if you know what I mean, and Angel Di Maria, may I say it. Of course, he went to Real Madrid, but he started off at Benfica, didn't he? So, basically, Manchester United are looking at bolstering this squad, looking at bringing players in that can help with the squad, especially the fact that when Man United are in the Champions League next season, Man United are going to be playing about 60, 70 games during that season, of course. Now, Joao Felix, of course, what happens in football in general is that when you don't make the right choices in your career, it can go spiraling out of control. And I think this is what's happened with Joao Felix. He's currently playing at Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. Now, that's quite significant because his valuation is 25 million. It's gone down quite a lot, hasn't it? 25 million from whatever 50, 60 million that he was worth before. But that 25 million can rise significantly, in particular with the Saudi club. He doesn't have a ceiling of how much Manchester United could pay for him or any other potential club can pay for him. It does go up to around 100 million, which will be absolutely absurd, of course. But if Man United could get Joao Felix for about 25 million, I don't think it would be a bad move, guys. I know this is going to sound a bit of a shock, but I don't think it would be a bad move for the squad. I really don't. I think it wouldn't be an absolute no. I don't think it would be an absolute disaster. I think it would be good for the squad, a player of that experience coming into the team. Now, Joao Felix, he can play an attacking midfielder. He can play left and right wing. He can also play up front. So he's not necessarily a prolific goal scorer. He used to be at Benfica, but he can play in various positions and he's versatile. And I think that's very important as well. We need these kind of versatile players. And I think this is not a total disaster of a link. It does have some positives. It does. However, obviously, I'm going to be on the train of, well, we can do better. We can get better. Probably not at that price, though. I would say that 25 million is quite cheap. However, that doesn't mean he's going to go for 25 million or Al Nassr are going to take 25 million. They might want 50 million. You never know, guys. The ceiling for his price tag does not end, guys. Absolutely. So Joao Felix to Manchester United linked today, of course, and let's wait and see what happens with that one. Probability of that happening, for me, quite low. I don't think Man United will go after Joao Felix. I think that ship sailed a long time ago. I believe that. However, I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen in the end. It did sign for Manchester United, and then we never know what. You know what. Sometimes, let me just tell you something, guys. Sometimes players, they leave, they go on a bit of a journey. I remember Cantona. Cantona did it. And I'm not comparing it by any stretch of the imagination to Eric Cantona. But, some players, they go on these journeys. They go on these club journeys where, like, for example, Joao Felix, Chelsea, Barca, AC Milan, Al Nassr, and they go on these journeys and they don't quite find their home. Sometimes players find their home, and when they find their home, they don't look back and then become superstars. Sometimes they become legends at their football club. So, look, you never know. You never know. Just a little bit of links there with Joao Felix to Manchester United. Let me know what you guys think about that, guys. Absolutely. Now, another player linked to Manchester United this afternoon is a young lad named Ange Yaun Bonny. Ange Yaun Bonny is an Inter Milan, 22-year-old Inter Milan player. He plays as a centre forward and a second striker for Inter Milan. Now, they signed him from Parma just a couple of years ago for 23 million. He's now valued at around 35 million. Now, I wouldn't call him the Ivory Coast-born French under-21 international. I wouldn't call him prolific. He's got 36 games this season, 5 goals, 6 assists. So that basically tells me, if I'm looking at things from glass half full, that tells me that Yaun Bonny is more of an attacking midfielder stroke creative player. With 36 appearances, 5 goals and 6 assists, it does suggest that for me. Obviously, this has struck a chord with Manchester United. This is attracting Manchester United because Manchester United have not been linked to this player. Manchester United have been linked to this player before. Manchester United have been linked to Bonny before. And I did mention him a few months ago on the channel, and I did mention him last week. But Ange Yaun Bonny is a player that Inter Milan would be willing to sell. And it would only cost about 35 to 45 million euros, guys. So it wouldn't break the bank. Obviously, has not gone from strength to strength. He's not a French international at the moment, which is quite telling, which is quite strange. 22 years old only as well, but he should have had a couple of caps for France by now. I don't know why he hasn't. So that does go to show you about his performances. Is he the guy? Is he that good? Now, I like to look at players, and I like to look at the context surrounding players, and I like to look at certain players and analyze them myself. And I wouldn't say that he's a failure if he hasn't had a French cap yet. France are a very difficult team to get into, a difficult squad to get into, of course. But he's obviously there. He's got 36 appearances this season, 5 goals, 6 assists, guys. So he's obviously a very important player for Inter Milan. Of course, Inter Milan are at the top end of the Serie A right now, competing with Napoli and AC Milan for the Serie A title, for the Scudetto. But you know what? I would say that this transfer right here, again, guys, I'll be honest with you guys. I feel like we could do a little bit better than Bonny. I think we could do a little bit better than Ange Yaun Bonny. And, if it was a last resort, then yeah, look, you know what, bring him in. We need him for the squad. But for me, it does scream. If I'm being totally honest with you, it does scream like a dodgy signing for me. Not someone that you can get excited about. If I look at it, I just feel like to come into the Premier League, it will be a bit different. It'll be a bit different for him, and to play for Manchester United. Being linked to us is fine, guys. These are the type of signings that I would add to the squad. Nothing more, nothing less. I think that's what it will be. However, his price tag of 35 to 45 million euros is a little bit steep if we're going to be having him just for the squad, if you know what I mean. Now, we could pick up players like Said Al-Mala, of course, for around that price. We Keith Schmidt, of course, for around that price. So I think Man United should be looking at the Keith Schmidt and the Said Al-Mala. Much better profiles for me. Better ceiling, higher ceiling for me. And I think that we shouldn't miss out on those type of players. I don't mind us looking at Ange Yaun Bonny. I don't mind us looking at him. Absolutely not. I don't mind us analysing certain players and scouting certain players. That's absolutely fine. But if it was to push come to shove, gun to head, I would say that, you know what, no. bring in a Keith Schmidt, bring in a Seidel Marler. One of these type of players I think will be a lot more effective for Man United in the long term and have a higher ceiling in my humblest of opinions, of course, guys. Now, a player that I mentioned briefly this morning, guys, is a Turkish international by the name of Orkun Kokcu. Orkun Kokcu, if I pronounce that right, guys, is a 25-year-old player currently playing for Besiktas on loan from Benfica. Now, he's valued at around 25 to 35 million. There were rumors circulating that it could be a deal. There could be a deal for Kokcu of around 70 million, which happened last year. There was a link to Kokcu to Manchester United for around 70 million. I think I mentioned him on the show way back when we were talking about him way back when, and we were talking about various transfers at Manchester United. Kokcu, of course, on loan at Benfica, does tell you quite a lot about is he succeeding at Benfica? Has he succeeded? What's going on with him? Why is he on loan at Benfica? What happened there? You know what I mean? Especially clubs like Benfica. Benfica don't really loan out players. Now, he's got 46 caps for Turkey with 3 goals. He's a CM, CDM, and attacking midfielder. So versatile. Again, I said it this morning about players now. You're not going to get the traditional number 6s anymore or the number 8s. You're going to get players who play in centre midfield, centre defensive midfield, and attacking midfield. You're going to get players that are versatile, going to get players that are a bit like handymen. They can play in various positions. I think this is the new thing going on. You won't get the Kantés anymore, or the Didier Deschamps, or players like that. You will get players like Orkun Kokcu who can play in various positions along the midfield. Now, this is attractive to Man United, and obviously this is he has attracted Man United in regards to his talent. Otherwise, we wouldn't be linked to him. But Manchester United being linked to him is a little bit strange for me. If Man United can pick him up for about 25, 35 million, that wouldn't be a bad thing, of course, for the squad. Again, for the squad. However, I would say that if it's anything more than that, I would not take that. Absolutely not. You can see the kind of pattern here, isn't it, with Manchester United and the price tag, the 25 to 35 million kind of player. You can see that sort of pattern here, and this obviously adds weight to the fact that we are looking at bolstering the squad, because I would like to think that Manchester United will be looking at the likes of Anderson, will be looking at the Whartons and the Stillers and the Amadou Onanas and all these kind of players in the midfield. I like to think that with the links to these players, guys, absolutely. However, I would like Man United to concentrate on the most important positions, on the spine of the team, the first team in that team. Of course, guys, as I said this morning, it was all about the first team. The first team is what I care about. And then obviously, once we finish the first team, once we fix the first team, we can start building the squad, if you know what I mean, and go from there, so to speak. But I know some people are going to say these are very underwhelming signings. These are not very exciting links to players. Of course, it's not. I wouldn't lie to you and gaslight you in thinking that these are the amazing signings. Absolutely not. But one thing I would say, if I'm going to look at the transfers with a glass half full, and I look at these kind of players, I'll say, well, okay, that's fine if we are signing them as squad players, if we are having them as backup players. And again, I would reiterate my stance in regards to the youth team. I do believe we got a couple of youth players coming through the ranks. I think JJ Gabriel is going to be an absolute superstar. I think he's a generational. And I think we do need to concentrate on those type of players as well, and not stifling them, so to speak, and giving them as much opportunity as possible, of course, guys. Big up the community. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone's doing fine. Thank you, everyone who's joining me today, guys. Let me just say hello, hi to the community. Big up, everyone. I hope everyone is blessed. Big up, Bobby. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you, Bobby. Hope you're doing blessed. Big up, Ephraim. Hope you're doing good afternoon, guys. Absolutely. Joe, Kofi, big up yourself. Joao Felix as a bench option would be a great piece of business. Like when Coutinho joined Villa, not bad. I agree with Kofi to an extent. I do. Absolutely. Kofi, if we're linked to Kokcu, it'll be one of the best value gains we can ever make. It'll be like Stack signing from Leeds. He's very talented, been following for 2 years now. He just needs a stage. You know what, Kofi? You make some very good points. I like Kofi, you know. I like Kofi because Kofi makes some good points here. You know, it's not all about just dismissing players because, you know what, they're not first team players. They're not going to be the main starters for Man United. He makes an absolutely spot-on opinion here. Sometimes players just need to find their stage. They just need to find their arena. A bit like when Cantona came to Manchester United. Again, I'm not comparing these players to Cantona, but what I would say is this, right? They just need to find their niche, if you know what I mean. And I think this is absolutely spot on. And I think we have to think about this. We can't look at everything pessimistically, and just dismiss certain players. As Kofi said there, not many people have heard of Kokcu. Not many people have watched him, right? But maybe he's just trying to find his home. And I think that is absolutely spot on, Kofi. Well played, mate. I think that's absolutely spot on. And again, with Felix, again, if this is going to be a squad option, if this is going to be... Now, look, guys, as we know what's going on in Saudi Arabia, there's a lot of political things going on at the moment. There are going to be a number of players that are going to be a little bit scared. Of course, I've just come back from the UAE. I know what it's like, guys, right? So there are going to be a number of players that are going to be a little bit concerned about the political side of things in regards to Saudi Arabia at the moment. And a lot of them will be looking at coming back to Europe. Now, again, this might equate to a rush sale, a jumbo sale, so to speak, and we might be able to acquire these players cheaply. And if you've got a player like Joao Felix, who we've been linked to loads of times, of course, guys, I don't think it will be in the realms of stupidity to bring him into Manchester United. I think it actually might be a good idea if you're thinking about the squad and you think about players that are versatile, of course, absolutely. Reports are saying that we are not getting Tonali, Anderson, and Bruno G. At the moment, Pig Teats, let me just tell you something about reports that we're not getting anything. Don't listen to it. It is March. Nobody knows. Whether it is Anderson, Tonali, Bruno Gimenez, I don't think we're getting Bruno Gimenez. I have said that a long time now. But one thing I would say about Anderson and Tonali, none of these players have made up their mind. Manchester United have not made up their mind on which midfielder they want as the first team midfielder, as the one that's going to be there every single game. Guys, if we're not linked to Tonali, if we're not linked to Anderson, who are we going to be linked to? If we're not linked to Bruno Gimenez, who are we going to be linked to? Exactly that. Do you know what I mean? So I would take a lot of these rumours as a pinch of salt. Keep it Stretford Post. Keep listening to Stretford Post. You'll get your news here. Absolutely. Don't listen to what the media outlets say. There's always going to be an element of glass half empty when it comes to Manchester United and transfers. There's always going to be people that want Manchester United to fail, of course. So I don't think we should be listening to that. I know they're going to be, spreading, oh, it's on or it's off, it's on, it's off. It's March. Nobody's made up their mind. I know for a fact that Anderson and Manchester United have not made up their mind. I know that for a fact, guys. I know that Anderson has not made up his mind. Obviously, it does depend on who qualifies for the Champions League. Man United need to qualify for the Champions League. If Man United qualify for the Champions League, then Anderson deals on. If we don't, it's potentially off. And that's how it is at the moment. At the moment, these journalists, wherever you're listening to, these dud people you're listening to, at the moment, it is no point analysing it to an extent. One thing is for certain, Anderson is not without his interests. He's wanted by other clubs, as is Tonali. He's wanted by other clubs as well. I can't say the same about Bruno Gimenez at the moment, giving Bruno Gimenez his price tag. No one really wants him. But in regards to Anderson, in regards to Tonali, they are wanted by a number of clubs. One of them is Manchester United. Doesn't mean Man United are going to sign him. Doesn't mean Man United are not going to sign him. It does depend at the end of the season. Why wouldn't Man United be in for Anderson? Why wouldn't they be in for Tonali? Why wouldn't they? It'd be ridiculous at the end of the day, wouldn't it? If we're not, and it wouldn't make any sense as well, because Anderson is a generational player for me, he's a player that a lot of clubs will be after, including Man United. Of course, we're always going to want the best. We're always going to want the best players at Manchester United. Anderson is one of them. Anderson, for me, represents a player that can come into Man United's midfield and play at Man United for the next 10 years, in my opinion. Big up, Ephraim. Sal, do you think Bruno will stay? It depends, Ephraim. At this present moment in time, nearly about 90%. Because obviously Bruno Fernandes is waiting on the Champions League. Now, if Man United didn't qualify for the Champions League, then I would say that there's a chance 50-50 that he may leave Man United. But if Man United get into the Champions League, he will stay. Definitely will stay. Look at his body language as well. The fact that Man United are winning, the fact that Man United are in the Champions League, you see his body language. He's happy and stuff like that, which is good. I think that's good. So Bruno Fernandes will be staying at Man United if we qualify for the Champions League. Let me just say that right now. You can clip me, you can do whatever. But if Man United qualify for the Champions League, which looks likely at the moment, I feel like Bruno Fernandes will be a Man United player next season. And I think we need him. We do need him. Absolutely need him next season, especially in the Champions League. We need his experience, of course. Big T's, I'm not sure, confident the board want the best. Yeah, let's hope so. They do. Let's wait and see. Let's not be so pessimistic. Let's wait and see what they do in the summer. One thing's for certain, I think Man United will sign quality players. I believe that. I think Man United will go after the likes of Anderson and Walton and Stiller and these kind of players. I think Man United will go after these type of players. The problem that I have about Man United is the quantity of players, the volume of players that we bring in. I don't think Man United will bring in enough players. That's the difference. I do believe Man United will sign quality players. We signed quality players in the summer in Bremo, Cunha, Sesko and Lemans. So I would say that, yeah, but again, what did we say then? It was not enough for a 10 window because it was not enough. I think this is a similar vibe that we're going to get. I think we might sign Anderson. I do. I think we might sign Wharton. Not saying it's going to happen 100%. We are linked to him. But what I would say is that I think we might sign Anderson. We might sign Wharton or Stiller. But we won't get enough players. And that will be the concerning thing for me in regards to the Champions League and the Premier League and the FA Cup and the League Cup, of course. Big up, Marky Mark. How you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Afternoon, Sal, and the community. How are you, my friend? Sorry, my friend. Just got on the break at work and come straight here. Big up, Sal. Ineos out, Blazers out. Glory, glory, Man United. Absolutely. Big up, my friend. Absolutely. Sesko is great, but he was fifth choice. That's a rumor. That's speculation. Who's first choice then? Ollie Watkins. Who were we after? Ollie Watkins? Those type of players. Or were we after Jokeres? He's better than all of them. So at the end of the day, I don't think so. I've always rated Sesko. Arsenal were linked to Sesko as well. And Arsenal are very close to signing Sesko. And if you ask them right now, they would prefer Sesko right now. If they could swap Jokeres with Sesko, they would. And if they say they wouldn't, they are lying to you. Sesko's great. Let's not bring in so much negativity, Pig Teats. I know you want to be negative. Guys, look, I'm the one who should be negative. I've supported Man United far longer than you for 40 years. And I'm the one who should be negative because I've seen it all. Right. But it's no point being like that. Let's wait and see what happens. You're going to do yourself blood pressure. You're going to give yourself a stroke. Don't worry about it. Let's wait and see. Sesko's a fantastic player. By hook or by crook, whether he's the 5th, 4th, 10th choice, he's good for us. He scores goals. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. Stroke of luck, may say. Stroke of genius at the end of the day. But the players that we're being linked to at the moment, apart from a couple that I would question, I think the majority of these players are incredibly talented. Absolutely. Bots for United. Bruno J would do. Perfect midfielders, but we need more than 2. Why is Baleba a perfect midfielder for you when he hasn't performed for his club this season? At the end of the day. Why is it? Guys? Why is Baleba the right choice for you? Please explain to me. The guy hasn't performed all season. What is that about? I don't understand that. I don't think so. I think Baleba would be a mistake. I don't think Baleba's the guy. I think there's far better players than Baleba. Even in Africa, in the AFCON, there were far better players. I don't see why we would go after Baleba for 70 to 100 million. I just don't see that happening. Man United have spoken to Baleba's entourage. And if Man United did sign Baleba, I think it will put a huge amount of pressure on Baleba because obviously his performances this season haven't been up to scratch. And it's very hard to twist your fortunes around. Bruno G is 28, 29 years old. I don't think Bruno G is the right guy for Man United. It's another Casemiro signing. He's too old, guys. He's too old, United. He's too old, my friend. And I think that at 70 million, Man United should not be signing a 28, 29-year-old. Let me teach you about the birds and the bees, mate. In regards, if you want Man United to be successful, that will be the worst midfield you could possibly buy on the long term. Because Carlos Baleba obviously hasn't performed this season. Bruno G is injury prone, 28, 29 years old, 70 million. Guys, when we can go out there and get a Stiller and get an Anderson. Guys, if you're totally brushing that under the carpet, I don't think you want the best for this football club because when you're looking at Bruno Guimaraes, 28, 29 years old, 70 million, nah, come on. Baleba, not performing. We're basing Baleba, right? We're basing the form of Baleba on a hunch. On a hunch. We're basing everything on a hunch that he might come good. Eric Dyer might come good if we sign him. Do you know what I mean? And this is where we need to move away from and be a little bit more critical in regards to our thinking, you know? No, I'm 2 years younger than you. Glad you're on today. Yeah, you should be teeth. Smile should still have teeth, my friend. It should be pig teeth. Absolutely. Pick up yourself. So I'm happy with Sesko. Imagine if we signed the lap. My goodness me. Oh, my goodness. If that was the first or second choice, then I never know, my friend. How do you know Anderson will perform next season? Don't forget Baleba was performed last season. Anderson performed last season and this season, mate. That's why. Anderson's performed for England. Anderson's walked into England team and performed. What's Baleba done? He was being carried last season, mate. We were manipulated. At the end of the day, what he always done like this season is prove that he's not the right guy for Man United. That's all he's done. All Baleba has done is prove he's not the right guy for Man United. Mentally, he's not strong because he was linked to Man United, wanted the Man United deal. Of course he did. Didn't open his mouth because he hasn't got the cojones to open his mouth. Didn't open his mouth and stayed at Brighton and now is underperforming for Brighton. And now we're getting people making compilations of him running with the ball. I mean, come on. Anderson's a generational. Anderson's going to go to Man City. If he goes to Man City, you're going to see. And people say, well, we should have signed Anderson, not Baleba. But if we sign him, I will support him with everything. But in my opinion, it won't be the signing to bring Man United forward. Trust me on that one. Trust me. And having been a big fan of him, you know, when he was at Lille, when he left Lille, when he went to Brighton, I just don't think it's that kind of player the profile player that Man United need. I think he's underperformed dramatically. I have not seen one thing I can look at Baleba this season and think, wow, I can give you loads from last season for Anderson and this season for Anderson. Loads, you know, and that's what we have to understand. One thing we have to do, with all due respect, Box Fan United, one thing we have to do, and I respect your opinion, don't get me wrong. Guys, one thing is that we have to look at things critically. Even if he's a fan favorite, even if he's your favorite, we have to look at it critically. I've had a number of players that I like at Man United, that I admire at Manchester United, you know, but have not come good, you know, and we have to look at, we're in a very critical stage of our development. You know, we got the Champions League next season. We've got the FA Cup, League Cup and the Premier League, of course. We need to get the right profiles. We probably won't have as much money, of course, guys. And we'll have to, you know, and to be honest with you, and I would say that we have to be very shrewd, very mature with the money that we spend. We have to have nothing is certain in football. Let me just say that one thing. Nothing is certain in football. We're not guaranteeing everything in football. That's not how football works. We're not guaranteeing that. But one thing is you have to look at things from a balanced point of view, right? You have to look at what's the most likely to succeed. What is the most likely to succeed? Now, I watch Anderson. He slots into that England team like he's been there 10 years. And that's his mentality. You know what I mean? Did you see him against Tottenham at the weekend? Unbelievable. You know what I mean? And he would be my first choice. And I'll be fighting tooth and nail for him. But, as I said, you never know. Big up, Mark. Mark, what's going on, my friend? Hope you're doing well. You're in the UK now. Are you in the UK now? I thought you were going on the 29th, mate. You're in the UK. Well done, my friend. It's good that you're back. I'm glad that you're safe, my friend. I'm glad that you're safe. Welcome back. Danny B, what's going on, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Baleba isn't quality, but I see it's getting in big tees. I don't disagree with you. I think that, as I've spoken many, many times about Baleba, I spoke about it in October, but before October, it was September, that Manchester United are arranging a meeting with Carlos Baleba's entourage, his family and his agent and stuff like that at the end of October. That meeting went ahead. The meeting went well, but obviously there were a number of different ins and outs in regards to this transfer. Baleba wants Manchester United. Manchester United still want Baleba. Obviously, in October, it was based on performances, how he's going to do, if he's going to improve his performances and stuff like that. But Brighton are not budging on the price. Now, they've reduced it to about 65 to 75 million, I believe, or something around that mark. They've reduced it to that. That is too much for Carlos Baleba. Carlos Baleba is a 35 to 45 million performing player right now. That's how much he should go. If he went for that price, I will be exactly the same as I am with Bonnie, like I've been speaking about earlier, and say, yes, that'd be good for the squad. Absolutely. But you have to look at it like this. Is Carlos Baleba better than Kobbie Mainoo? Absolutely not. He's not. And as much as people want to throw out Kobbie Mainoo under the bus, Kobbie Mainoo's better than Carlos Baleba. We need to look at people on par or better. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion, and hopefully we do. Tell you what, how you doing, my friend? I hope you're doing well. Good to see you. A big up, Sal, with the consistent injuries to both the Lipton and it's half done. We go to stronger defenders like Emma Ndika from Roma or Calvin Bassey from Fulham. Good players, Tyro. I've mentioned them a couple of times. I wouldn't sign two. I'll probably sign one. I think we're keeping Harry Maguire. We've also got Aidan Heaven. We've also got Lenny Yoro. We've also got Mazraoui. So I think we're going to be okay on that side. And we also cannot stifle the development of Kolungi and Fredrickson as well. Very good defenders coming through the ranks, of course. So I would say, yes, I'm a big fan of Ndika. I spoke about Ndika last week. And those who know, I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of Calvin Bassey at Fulham as well. I think he's a very good player as well. I think we do need to look at a defender. Obviously, what's so disappointing is that we have these injury records cropping up every single season. And you know what? It just adds more work to do in the transfer window, doesn't it? You know, especially when we need a midfield, we need fullbacks, and we need a couple of attacking players to cover. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day. Ephraim, not ability only about Baleba. His mentality is not good. We need mentality monsters. I agree. So this is exactly what I like, right? Is people understand the value of mentality, the value of being a mentality monster. Man United used to have them so much. We don't have many of them these days. I think it's very important that we bring in the mentality monster. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. And I don't think necessarily that Baleba is a mentality monster. He's proven it this season. And that's just what I'm saying. I'm calling things critically. I'm not a child. I do not have obsessions about players because they have no affiliation to Manchester United. You know, they're affiliated to themselves. I care about the football club. I care about what's good for the football club. And I care about what's going to be a good player for the football club. You know what I mean? Even if it means I'm wrong. To be fair, Anderson never wanted by a big club like United to judge his mentality. Are you joking, mate? Are you joking? Are you really joking about that? He was wanted by Real Madrid a few weeks ago, mate. Real Madrid are looking at, before they got rid of Alonso, we were looking at Anderson. They were looking at Anderson. He's wanted by Man United for nearly a year now. He's performed this season with the links to Man United. You may not hear about these links. I do. Man United have been wanting Anderson for a while. Even when he was at Newcastle, Man United wanted Anderson. You know, it's best not to speculate, bots, you know, just to add weight to your narrative. You don't need to do that with me. It's fine. You know, you could say you like Baleba. That's absolutely fine. I hope he comes to Man United and smashes it. You don't need to add weight to your narrative. It doesn't work because at the end of the day, I know the truth. I know who he's wanted by. You know what I mean? And I know who he's wanted by now as well. You know, and Man United are going to have a task on their hands trying to obtain Anderson. It'll be easy to get Baleba. You know why? Because no one wants him. Let me tell you another thing. Bayern Munich and PSG had a look at Baleba. We're not interested. You know, they walked away from Baleba. They walked away from him. They're not interested in him. They see he's good enough. It's not good enough, especially for that price. You know, and that's all with due respect. You know, what I would say, having known a few people around the football club as well, is that he could be possible because he's easy. Because he's easy. Right? That's not how great teams are built. Greatness weren't built with comfort zones. Right, let me just tell you that. It weren't built with comfort zones. You have to go out there and get the player that, you know what, everyone wants, you know, but people don't expect you to get. In regards to the midfield, let me just talk about this. If Man United signed Anderson, let me just play devil's advocate here. If Man United signed Anderson, right, if Man United signed Wharton or Man United signed Stiller, all right, let's say we signed three midfielders, Anderson, Stiller and Baleba. Fabulous. Brilliant, right? We're all happy. But I don't think they're going to do that. You know, I don't think they're going to do that. Tyro, it's obvious Barcelona want to sign Marcus Rashford on the cheap. Yeah, they are going for Jan Virgil and Pedro Neto since we're still lacking and the left wing. Should we accept him back under Carrick? No. Tyro, plain and simple, Tyro, all with due respect, no. It's not just about left wing. He can play in left wing and blah, blah, blah. It's not just about his attitude. He left Man United toxically. Man United, Ruben Amorim, if you're going to compliment Ruben Amorim about everything, Ruben Amorim spent ages fixing that dressing room. There's a reason that you can see Man United are so together. Look at them on the pitch. All right, they don't perform all the time, but look at Man United on the pitch. Look at the camaraderie. Look at the relationship between the players. Look at the smiles on that. You know why that is? Because we ain't got misery guts Marcus Rashford. We haven't got Anthony, and we haven't got players to moan. We haven't got Sancho to moan. That's why. And that's one good thing that Ruben Amorim did for Manchester United. He did many, which people ignore, but that's one thing that he did. He got rid of that. If we bring back Marcus Rashford, I think that it will be the biggest mistake that Man United make next season. The biggest mistake that Man United make next season. We got Cunha. I'm happy with Cunha. We got Patrick Dorgu. I'm happy with Patrick Dorgu. Let's move on from that. Let's move on. Because one thing about Man United over the years that we've done wrong, in my opinion, is that we've clinged on to players so much. We clinged on to them, and we're very, very nostalgic, and we're very, I don't say soft, but we are soft on these players. We're not ruthless with these players, and I actually think Marcus Rashford is, according to what I'm hearing from Barcelona fans, they're not entirely happy with them. It's 50-50. It's just that Barcelona in a corner in regards to they want to buy him because obviously they like him as a person, or maybe they're obliged to buy him, but he hasn't exactly blown the house down. And that's what it is at the end of the day. And the Premier League's far harder as well. And him coming back to Manchester United, it would be a mistake for me. You know what I mean? Ephraim, it will be toxic from Rashford to come back. We need to move on from the past. There is no proof that those big teams ever presented no offer to either Anderson or Nottingham Forest. Which team did that? No team has ever offered for Baleba either, mate. No team has ever done that. Man United inquired about Baleba. They gave a 100 million price tag. Man United walked away. There's nothing about that. In regards to Anderson, there has been teams. There is evidence. I'm telling you, there's evidence spots for United. You can knock one out to Carlos Baleba on your wall. That's up to you, mate. I don't mind that. You like Carlos Baleba. That's fine. You don't need to come in here and try and justify and tell lies about it. You don't need to do that because I'm informed. You're not, mate. At the end of the day, there are teams who have looked at Baleba and have turned their back on Baleba. Bayern Munich, these type of players, stop looking at football in a sinister kind of way and look at things smartly. Look at things in a mature way, not a kiddie way. We're not a kiddie club, right? We're Man United, not Baleba United. At the end of the day, Baleba, if I was to analyze his performances this season in one word, shit. That's it. Nothing to factually shit. If I was to analyze Anderson in one word this season, generational. Here we are. We live by today. We don't live by yesterday and what happened yesterday, what happened the day before yesterday, what happened last year. Right now, he's a superstar. Anderson. One isn't. At the end of the day. Man United have had an agreement with Baleba for a long time. It doesn't matter. But Man United were 15th last season, mate. 15th, right? At the end of the day. And Man United were looking at midfielders, but Man United didn't pay the money. But what has happened to Anderson? Anderson was inquired by Man United as well. Man United has spoken to Anderson's entourage as well in January, as far back as January, as close as January. We spoke to Anderson, right? So you're arguing with me that knows what happened, that said it before anyone else said it about Carlos Baleba in October. At the end of October, there was an agreement. I don't know if you're listening. There was an agreement in October between Carlos Baleba and Manchester United at the end of October between the entourage and that. But that was based on performances as well. And we didn't, and we now, obviously, with everything that's happened with Ruben Amorim, we didn't make the move, right? We didn't make the move. And you look at it as a whole, if his head has been turned by Manchester United and still acts like a bitch on the pitch, then he is not the man for Manchester United. Right? And that's it. Anderson has been linked to Manchester City. Huge links to Manchester City. Right? Anderson's been linked to Manchester United. Wharton's been linked to Real Madrid as well. Right? Links to Real Madrid. Wharton. Their head is not turning. They're not turning. There's links everywhere. I know it for a fact. You may not know it. You may want to add weight to your dead narrative, but I'm telling you now, Box for United, respectively, if you love Carlos Baleba, if you love him so much and you've got posters on your wall, that's you, mate. Great. It's great. That's great. But stop basing your ideology about players based on sinister narratives, because this is what it is. I can read between the lines here. Look at it for performances now, right? Cristiano Ronaldo when he's 17 is different to Cristiano Ronaldo when he's 26. You got to look at now and Cristiano Ronaldo now. You got to look at what the present is when we, you know what I mean? You got to look at how good he is now. Not what he did, 10 Christmases ago. It amazes me our fans want a player who is not performing. I've told you, bots. I'm your evidence. I know people at the club. You don't. There you go. I've told you, mate. That one's for free, by the way. Absolutely. And that's the end of it. Ephraim, Sal, it amazes me how fans want a who is not performing. We need to be careful. I don't know, mate. It's just players. People have their favourites and, and base everything around Baleba. I mean, wanting Baleba and Gomeres is a recipe for disaster anyway, guys. But you're arguing with a wall here because I actually know the facts, right? There's certain things I can disclose and I can't disclose in regards to certain players as well. So what I would say is that knowing people at the football club, Man United have inquired about Anderson. Man United have inquired about Wharton. Man United have inquired about Stiller. They know as well. They know. Stiller turned around and said, I might want to go to Real Madrid. That's what Stiller said. I might want to go to Real Madrid. I might want to play in La Liga. And that's the difference, But respect. If he wants Baleba, that's it. You're not going to change my mind. All Baleba can do for me is change my mind and play well on the football pitch. It's March. I haven't seen one good performance from him all season. That's the facts. Now, what's the difference between Carlos Baleba and Evan Ferguson? Evan Ferguson was rated as the next Wayne Rooney in his first season at Brighton, wasn't he? What's happened to Evan Ferguson? Consistency is key. That's what you need. Consistency separates the men from the boys, the wood from the trees. That's what happens in football at the end of the day. And that's the end of Baleba. Will Man United sign him? Probably. They might do because he's easy. That's what it is. And he's desperate. And no one else wants him. Now, they're walking away from that deal at the end of the day. However, one thing I would say about all this, having said all that, is the fact that he's not worth 70 to 100 million. That's the biggest thing here right now. So if you want to buy Carlos Baleba and you want to base your footballing opinion on a hunch, that's fine. But one thing's for certain, he's not worth 70 million. He's worth 35, 40 million. Easy that. Because there are players in Europe right now that Man United can get who are performing at a high level consistently. And we can need to look at that more, rather than looking at just because he's played in the Premier League and playing badly in the Premier League, getting hooked every other game, by the way, it's no point. There's no point. But one thing I would say is that fair play, opinions, and that's about it at the end of the day. Don't discount my evidence because I have evidence, right? I don't need to prove anything to anyone on here. I've been right numerous amounts of times. But, it's not about that. What I care about is Manchester United and Manchester United moving forward and going on, do you know what I mean? And progressing and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? At the end of the day. But moving on from that, obviously, there's going to be a lot of twists and turns, ins and outs, and guys and roundabouts in regards to transfers that about Man United. That's going to be certain. There's going to be a lot of unhappy people when we sign certain players and, I don't want that player, and blah, blah, blah. There's going to be a lot of skepticism in regards to the Manchester United fan base. But one thing's for certain, I know what a Man United player is. I've been supporting Man United late 80s, right? I know what a Man United player is. And one of the key characteristics about a Man United player, let me just tell you, it's up here. It's the mentality. It's not just on the feet. We had some very average ballers at Man United, right? But up here, they had it, right? They had it. And they knew how to negotiate football, right? In the biggest of the pressured environments in football history. They knew how to negotiate. They knew how to become successful and make the most of themselves. And that's what they did with their mentality, right? There's no pressure playing at Brighton and Hove Albion, for example, and for you not to perform at Brighton or Hove Albion, Caicedo, I'll give an example, was heavily linked to Chelsea, still performed for Brighton and Hove Albion, and that's what I'm talking about, and signed for Chelsea for 100 million. And that's what we're talking about here, So Man United, there's such a thing called red flags, and noticing the red flags before it becomes war. And we're messed up. At the end of the day. Noticing the red flags, for me, is what is the most important thing. Now, you listen to people like Mark Goldbridge and they speak very sensibly about Baleba, about certain players that come to Man United. And they call it objectively and critically. And I think that is how we should call football. Objectively, critically. I liked Baleba, but he hasn't performed well this season. That's a red flag. He hasn't performed well all season. That's a red flag. He's 70 million to 100 million. That's a red flag. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day. Taiwo. It's better we weed out the injury-prone players like De Ligt, Mount, Malacia, Mazraoui, Licha, and fringe players. We need a proper and solid team that can rotate. I wouldn't say that about Mazraoui, Tyro. I think Mazraoui hasn't been injured that much. He's been all right. He did have an injury this season, I know that, but I would keep Mazraoui because his versatility can play left back, right back, centre back. I'll keep Mazraoui, absolutely. However, Mount, Malacia, Licha, it's coming to the point of De Ligt as well, Tyro, that we're going to have to look at things, critically in regards to the injury-prone players. But I wouldn't sell Mazraoui. Absolutely not. He's been one of our players of the season when he's fit. But he is back now and played in the AFCON as well as a left back, played very well as well. I would not get rid of him. It'd be a mistake. I think he's good. He's versatile and I wouldn't do that. However, I would do the others. Of course, Licha is a problem, and we need to look at that. And De Ligt is a problem. We need to look at that. We need to look at the extent of the injuries. And if, in regards to De Ligt, we know Licha's injury prone. Someone told me before De Ligt signed for Man United, someone from Barca, very close to someone from Bayern Munich, very close to Bayern Munich, told me that De Ligt is injury prone. Now, in De Ligt's first season, De Ligt was very good, and rarely injured. And I was like, what was that Bayern Munich fan talking about? What was he going on about? I was like, what's that all about? There you go. Live and live in colour. De Ligt is injured. The problem that Man United are having that we have to have fingers crossed. We have to be like, inshallah, sort of thing. Because we got too much work to do, Taiwo. We got a lot of work to do. We got the midfielders. The midfield is the biggest problem at Man United at the moment. The midfield is the biggest problem. Then it's the fullbacks. Then it's the defence. That's what it is. We can live with Mazraoui and Yoro and Maguire and Aiden Heaven. We can live with these players. They're good enough. Aiden Heaven, for me, is going to be a superstar soon. Lenny Yoro is going to be 1 year more experienced next season. He's going to be brilliant, Pops. Kokcu is right kind of player for Man U. I mean, look, a lot of people are telling me this, Pops, by the way, about Kokcu. Again, he's got good mentality. On loan at Besiktas at the moment, the one biggest question, and I'll pose to you, why is he on loan at Besiktas? What happened in regards to Benfica? I haven't kept an eye on his career. I've watched some videos of him at Besiktas, and I've seen him sparingly at Benfica. I want to know what has happened to Kokcu at Benfica. Why did they loan him out? He's 25 years old. Why did they loan him out? And that's what I want to know. That's just a simple question, to be honest with you. Is his performances been poor? I would say that at the end of the day. I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see in regards to that. But yeah, Kokcu is a player. It's an interesting one. And it wouldn't be a bad move for Manchester United. And as someone said earlier in the channel, sometimes players need to find their home. And I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think so, because his price is not astronomical. His price is not going to be through the roof. 25 to 35 million. Man United can pick him up. That wouldn't be a bad deal for Man United. And again, he can play in various positions, and you know what, it can fill up the squad numbers at the end of the day. But yeah, definitely. I think, one thing I would say is that there's a lot of the way some people view football. They view football based on the personality. They view football based on, I don't like the person. I don't like Anderson because he's English, or I don't like him because he's that. I don't like him that, they do this kind of thing. And English players, in my opinion, get heavily underrated, and they get, there's a lot of xenophobia in regards to England and English players. A lot of our players get it. I think that's wrong. As an Englishman, I'll tell people that. I think that just because a player's name is Anderson or not Anderson with no other name, like a Brazilian, they think that he's a poor player and overrated. Or just because a player, reminds them of somebody, or they relate to him better, they like that player better. For me, it's whatever is good for Manchester United. That is what I care about. What's best for Manchester United? What's going to take Manchester United forward? That is what I care about. That's what I care about. Who's going to be the player to take Man United forward? That's what I base my judgment on. I don't have any affiliation to players, and they don't have any affiliation to anyone else. These players in general care about themselves. They don't care about anyone else but themselves. I mean, and that's what I would say about that. No matter if you love a player, you like a player, you're in love with a player, no matter what it is, right? These players have no affiliation to us. We, as a collective, have an affiliation to Manchester United, and we hope that Manchester United sign the right players that's going to get us to the promised land, where Manchester United should be, right? There are players, I've seen league titles. I've seen 13, by the way, league titles, right? And I know the caliber of player that Man United need. I don't just come in here and start talking kerfuffle because at the end of the day, I have no personal ill feelings or good feelings towards players who don't play for Man United. And that's it at the end of the day. They play for that club. They play for that club right now. And it has no bearing on what I think or how I think about the future. If Man United sign him, I hope if Man United sign any player, I hope they're the right player. I hope they're the right player. And that's all I can say. I hope they're the players. But what we have to do as a collective, as a Manchester United fan base, when there are signs of a red flag, you have to call the red flag, whether that's a manager, whether that's an assistant manager, whether that's a player. You have to call the red flags when they appear to you. Don't just ignore the red flags. It's very important, guys. Ignoring the red flags obviously creates, a possibility of toxicity within the fan base. Because next season, if we sign a midfielder or we sign any player, and he doesn't become the player that we all wanted, we're all going to be saying, oh, he's wrong, he's not the right player, and blah, blah, blah. Just like some people were doing with Patrick Dorgu at the beginning of the season when I was backing Patrick Dorgu, and I was telling people with chest, Dorgu is going to come good. Dorgu is going to come good. How many times did I say that on this channel? Ephraim will tell you that. How many times did I say Dorgu will come good? And how many times did people say to me, Dorgu shit? Right? How many times did people say that to me? You know? And that's what I'm talking about. You know, and I said, no, Dorgu will come good. Dorgu is going to, he reminds me of Gareth Bale, the way he goes left back, left midfield, and blah, blah, blah. And this is what I was saying. And now the comparisons are coming out. Now the comparison come back. I'm not an oracle of football, but I've been watching football a long time. I've seen a lot of players, great players play for this great football club. And, I would say that what the characteristics of the signings that Man United used to do is Man United used to sign the right profile. And what does that mean by profile? Profile means personality. It means what you do in your spare time. It means how you perform for your football club, the attitude that you show on the pitch, right? Your implementation, your character. What are your hobbies? Are you married? What do you like to do? Do you like to go out partying and clubbing, or do you like to stay at home with your family? And that is a profile of player that Man United used to look for in the past. We used to look at profiles. Alex Ferguson used to famously meet the player's family and to go for dinner, things like that. You know what I mean? And to get to know the player, to get to know what that player that is, what he's like, the character, the family, the background, everything about it as a package. Because when you play football for Manchester United, you are family. And you want that person to slot into that family and fight for each other. When you're in the trenches, you want that player to fight for you. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? At the end of the day. Absolutely. Taiwo. Patrick Dorgu is a good natural left back. Right from when he was at Lecce, he should replace Luke Shaw. Once he is back and we continue to search for a natural left winger, I need Nusa or Diamande. One thing I hope, Taiwo, is obviously Dorgu's plays very well at left winger as well. He's done very well there. And guys, if you watched him against Arsenal, he's phenomenal. I wouldn't discount that as well. But yeah, what I would say is Man United got to be careful. We can't spend 100 million on Diamande. Diamande's price tag needs to go down. It needs to be reduced a little bit because he's playing in the Bundesliga, my friend. And as we've seen with Florian Wirtz this season, they could be the best player in Germany. But you know what? When you come to the Premier League, it's a different kettle of fish. It's a different ball game. It's a different ball game at the end of the day, And what I would say is that I would love Diamande to come to Man United, but I would love Nusa to come to Man United as well. But we have to be very careful what he's spending, because the most important thing at Man United right now, which we haven't fixed, is that midfield. And we haven't fixed it in years. Like I said, the last midfielder that we bought that was a Manchester United midfielder long term was Michael Carrick. We bought obviously Casemiro, but he was way past. That's why Real Madrid sold him. We bought Casemiro, but the last one was Michael Carrick. He's our manager now. So it tells you everything at the end of the day. Yes, we bought the Herreras and the Schweinsteigers and the Schneiderlins and stuff like that. Of course we did, but they were nowhere near the levels. Man United need to fix that midfield. Make sure, as I said this morning, we build relationships within the team. We get a solidified 2 in that midfield, right? And then we have a backup 2 in that midfield, right? Just like the centre-backs, we get a solidified centre-back partnership. And then we have a backup centre-back partnerships. We have 2 full-backs who can go forward and create. And then we have backup full-backs who can go forward and create. And then we have, obviously, the strikers and stuff like that. And you know the narrative here, isn't it? You know the vibe here. This is what we're talking about, isn't it? It's building relationships within the team. You know what I mean? You are positive and balanced in your opinion. Big up, Sal. Big up, Ephraim. Thank you so much. I've seen a lot, you know, I mean, I've seen a lot of people, you know, who talk a lot of smack, who talk a lot of, you know, a lot of football, with all due respect, based on things that don't relate to equating to a successful football team. We have to concentrate on being a successful football team. We don't concentrate on individuals. We concentrate as a collective. Manchester United are in a crucial period in their history, I would say, and it's very important that Man United make the right decisions in regards to the transfers that we make. Having your favourites is absolutely fine. You can have your favourite player. But you also have to look at it from the point of view of Manchester United. If a player is not performing, if a player is not playing well, I'm not talking about a couple of games here. I'm not talking about 5 games. I'm not talking about 10 games. I'm talking about bloody 7, 8 months. You know, you have to look at that. And you have to look at it critically. It's no offense, and it's no dissing anyone, or it's no me against you. It's not that. It's about Manchester United at the end of the day, and I think this is the biggest issue that we have in the fan base. That, you know, we are basing everything on a cultish mentality. You know, when we should be united in a common goal. That, you know what, we analyze football fairly. You know, we analyze football in a way that is mature. You know, and not look at my favorite. You know, and like I say, I love Bruno Guimaraes. But Bruno Guimaraes is 28, 29 years old. He's 28, 29 years old. You know, we purchased Casemiro past his best at 28, 29 years old. What are we doing here? 75 million. What are we doing here? We need athleticism. We've been saying it for ages. You know, we don't need another injury-prone player. We don't need another guy passing his peak and going into his twilight years of football. We need players that are going to play at Man United for years. You know what I mean? We can't keep making mistakes. We can't. You know, we can't keep making mistakes. We can't keep signing the fashionable signing because, you know, he's your favourite sign. We can't keep doing that. You know, at the end of the day, we can't keep doing that. You know. And we can't keep looking at the fashionable things in regards to football, you know, and stuff like that at the end of the day, you know. And yeah, what I would say is base football around facts, base football around analysis, and base football around what's good for Manchester United. Don't base football around whether you have an inkling for a player, you love a player or a manager, you have an obsession with a manager, you don't like a player or a manager. Base things with facts. And that's what I said. I said it to Gregory earlier. I said it to Gregory about his dislike for Amram and talking about Amram. And to add weight to his narrative, he would say that, oh, Amram didn't have a good goal scoring record. And I corrected him. Actually, our XG was better. You know, and that's what it is at the end of the day. You know, you have to be informed and call things as they are, and don't base football around emotion in regards to players and managers. Base things around facts. Base things around, well, you know what, this and this and that. And we spoke about Marcus Rashford earlier. You know what I mean? We spoke about him earlier. And we brought up a lot of facts today about Marcus Rashford. It's not just about his ability or lack of. It's about his mentality, his attitude, you know? And this is what we have to look at. Guys, thank you, everyone, for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Ephraim, you legend. Guys, whether you agree or not, thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to smash a like on the video. Don't forget to put your notifications on as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new as well, guys. It would be great. Thank you, everyone who's joined me today on Chatterbox. I shall see you tomorrow. Of course, guys, I'm doing a number of shows tomorrow. Of course, I'm on Mo's channel tomorrow. I'm also doing I'm on another channel as well. But anyway, keep your notifications on, so when I do go live, you will know exactly when and where. Of course, guys, smash a like on the way out, guys. Let's keep the likes up. Thank you, everyone who supports the channel. Big up yourself. Have a great day, great night, great evening. See you soon. Take it easy, guys. Peace.